Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here coming at you from the Knife Center, and it's our favorite time of the week, taking a look at the coolest new knives that have just hit our shelves. Let's check them out. All right, first thing this week, we've got a couple of exclusives to show off. And the first is honestly, and I'm not even just saying this because it is our exclusive and I think it's a cool project, this is one heck of a deal. This is the QSP Penguin, known far and wide, loved for its high degree of fit and finish, its high degree of performance, and generally low price with D2 steel and some really cool handle materials. This version still has a really cool handle material. This is our orange and black Coral G10, and we get a bump up in blade steel here to S35 VN. And the price is still astonishing, I think. 65 bucks for either one of these finishes. You've got the satin finished blade or the black stone washed. This is the least expensive S35 knife on the website. This is the least expensive you can get into this phenomenal steel. A lot of performance for your dollar right here. It's a particle metallurgy. You've got great edge retention, good deal of toughness. It's just one of those fantastic all-around stainless options, and it's gonna work really well for you. But we've got a sheep's foot style blade here, just over 3 inches, real strong utility vibes. I say that, of course, because it's very reminiscent of a standard utility blade. You're gonna be able to get the same kind of delicate or precise tip work with this blade, as well as some good, powerful cuts out of it as well. Thin enough on the blade stock, high flat grind, just a fantastically strong performer and hard working profile. The G10 looks good and feels good too. It's got a bit of a matte texture. We've got a deep carry pocket clip, screwed in from the outside, but actually mounted in a slot in the G10 handle there. Actually might be able to see that better on the satin version right there. And it is reversible for either side as well. Liner lock, washers in the pivot, no ball bearings to worry about getting mucky or dirty, which on a utility style blade like this is a good thing. And a nice pop still on the opening action. Very, very cool. Like I said, 65 bucks for an S35 VN locking blade folder. Very cool. Next up, and this is kind of coincidence that these came in at the same time because this is not the same company, is the second least expensive locking S35 VN folder that we sell. It is a new version of the Boker Kaizen. Two versions here, in fact. We have a Coyote G10 with satin S35 blade for about 74 bucks. And for 5 bucks more, you could get the black coated blade with the brown G10 handles. Very cool. Definitely not a the kind of like hard-working brute that the Penguin manages to be, but more of that executive styling going on. You've got that narrow blade, about 3.1 inches, almost a full flat grind, very thin blade steel, almost a full length swedge. This is just a deft, precise, agile little cutting blade. Very, very nice indeed. And more so than just about any other executive style knife out there, really has a blade that almost completely disappears inside the handle when closed. You've just got this little hint of rounded jimping, which acts as the flipper tab. You may think that's not much to grab a hold of, and it's not, and yet it still manages to work pretty darn reliably because I don't know what it is. It just manages to catch your finger quite nicely. Maybe not quite so good with the lighter flick there, but any kind of standard flick otherwise works great. The G10 is very nice. It has a fish scale milled pattern and some contouring into it. So you've got a very comfortable and yet secure feel too. Deep carry pocket clip that, well, take that back a little bit. Not quite deep carry because you have the protruding kind of crusher here at the back that also gives you that lanyard attachment point as well. But for that, the clip does come all the way up to just shy of that. And if you want it to be a little more subtle, you can maybe go with the black version right here because that's not going to shout as much above the hem of your pocket. Very cool, very affordable way, two very affordable ways to get a premium steel on a knife that's very well put together for a very good price. All right, next up we have kind of one of the OG executive style flippers that originally came out before we even called them executive style flippers. This is the Boker Urban Trapper. This new version comes in about 126, and that comes with this jigged titanium handle onlays on both sides. Very nice effect. You get some texture, you get a very premium feel that's reinforced by the blade itself. It's VG10 as you can see, but you got this nice horizontal grain, very finely finished, has almost that handmade or custom feel to it. Crown spine here at the back, ball bearings in the pivot. It's a great knife, and it's cool to see them continuing to do new versions of it, kind of keeping it fresh, because it's really, really cool. There you go, another one to take a look at. All right, next up is a pair of knives that we originally filmed for inclusion in last week's video, only to find out after we had filmed that we couldn't release them until tomorrow, the day after this particular video posts. It is the Apex by SharpByDesign, and rather than talk about them again, we're just gonna rewind to David from a week ago. We have a new SharpByDesign design. This is the Apex model. Reminds me a little bit of their Void, in fact. Really cool. There are 8 different variations of this knife right now, and you can get either of them in pretty much any permutation of the features that you see right here between these two. There are S90V steel versions. Those are coming in about $375, and you've got Damasteel coming in about $525. I'll start with this S90V version that I've got in my hand right here. Titanium frame, gray with blue inlays, and I believe that is also, it's either titanium or an aluminum inlay actually, because that's probably how they get the specific colors here. But it's got a pretty much seamless transition. I can just barely feel the transition between the two. Contoured titanium, really nice to hold in the hand. Pocket clip is milled. Maybe the top end of that hits me just a little bit for my particular hand size, but it's an excellently executed little clip right there. Tanto blade shape right here. Drop point is also available. Compound grinds, hollow on the back, flat near the front. And this is the standard flipper version. So flips really well. Ball bearings in the pivot as you would expect. The lockup is nice and tight. You can also do the reverse flick, no problem, thanks to this very broad cutout in the blade itself. Works great in just a standard thumb open as well. Yeah, great lockup. Everything feels really good. Even more striking visually, I think, is the black titanium with red inlaid version paired with the Damasteel blade, which just looks, I mean, come on, that is so good looking. A view from the top, some nice sophisticated angles going on. This version is a front flipper. Again, you can get a S90V in the front flipper with this color or the other color if you like, or you can get it with the standard flipper too, with this Damasteel blade on either handle. The front flipping, I'm never as good with the front flippers, so apologies all around. I'd probably go for the standard flipper for me personally. I do like the cleanliness of the drop point shape here without the flipper though. It has a really nice look. High flat grind, you've got the same big finger or a thumb cutout. Easy to open that way certainly, and just come on, looks absolutely fantastic. They feel great, and like I said, dropping today as this video is coming out. And we're back, and you got some real good things to say there, David. I agree completely.
I don't remember.
I don't know. I probably agree because I said them the first time. All right. Really cool knives available tomorrow, folks. Keep an eye out on our social channels. All right. Next up, we have a new Microtech signature series Ultratech. This is the Coyote Camo pattern with a double-edged blade with a plain edge and a serrated edge side going on. About $500 for this knife. That is a really cool finish. There's always a lot of really cool finishes coming out from Microtech, and even when I recognize them as like, hey, that's really cool, not all of them speak to me personally, but this one really does. that's cool. It's got a subtlety to it while also being flashy, if that makes sense. I don't know. It's not quite, well, it's right there in the name. It's camo, really, but it still makes quite the impression. I wouldn't want to take it camping, not least of which because it's not ideally set up for that sort of thing, but I would hate to drop this in the sticks and the dirt and all that sort of thing. But in all other scenarios, it's just a really cool piece. And of course, built with Microtech's strong tolerances, their excellent action, which you could hear right there. Blade length is just shy of 3.5 inches, and yet you've got the double edge going on. Also, on top of that, you've got the serrated edge on the top. So you've got, really, like we can double 3.5 and say we've got at least, 7 inches of sharpened edge, but really it's a lot more even so because of the serrations going on. Tons of edge retention right here. I'm not sure the steel on this particular model, but Microtech tends to use some pretty premium powder metal stuff, so you should be assured of having something that is not going to need sharpening all that often indeed. All right, next up, and something considerably more affordable than that previous knife, we have a Boker. It is the version, or it is the BabyX. It is a D-Rocket design, which if you're familiar with his work, this is immediately recognizable as such. Price on this, much more attainable than his mid-tech or custom stuff though, just under $40. 1.57-inch blade, D2 steel, sheep's foot profile. Just a good, small utility knife. Day-to-day stuff, nothing too big, just a box opener, package cutter, that sort of thing. I don't know why I tried to front flip it there, although you kind of get into the jimping a little bit. Do not try this at home. Go ahead and try it at home, but that's not quite how it's intended to be used. You've got the nice square flipper tab here at the back. Something I really like when there are designs out there that incorporate a flipper tab like that, because it's so out of the way when it's closed, and it's even out of the way when the knife is open too. It's really cool, I dig it. Deep carry pocket clip on this one. Titanium frame? No way, not at this price. Stainless steel, I didn't think so. Just really nice. You've got the fluting along there. Doesn't quite give you fore and back traction because you kind of want to run with that as you go, but pushing down into a cut, there's plenty of jimping and ridges on here, so you're not going to lose your grip, even though this is, barely a 2.5 finger grip on the handle here. But you're not doing heavy work with this anyway, at least I wouldn't be. It's very cool. Frame lock for stability, good blade steel at that price point, great fit and finish as always from Boker. Now normally I like to keep brands somewhat together on these videos, but we had some Bokers earlier, this Boker here, and we've got some Boker later too. Kind of like the thread with which this video is tied together perhaps. But anyway, next up we have some Bestechs to take a look at. The first is getting a bit of buzz right now. This is the Tonic. Price on these for micarta handle or micarta inlaid versions come in about $289. This version right here with the carbon fiber comes in about $306. They've all got M390 blades, just under that 3-inch mark. Modified Wharncliffe here with a high flat grind and a nice swedge. It's a really cool pattern, first and foremost. Before I get into why this knife is getting buzz, it's just a nice utilitarian shape with some style to it. And I'm not talking just the materials. The actual shape itself has kind of a balance to it, a visual harmony, shall we say. I'm really appreciating that shape. You've got plenty of blade there to work with for most day-to-day tasks. Nice sharpening choil there, as well as a little flat spot along the ricasso and into the bolster of the knife there. It gives a nice index finger point if you want some fine detail of the tip right there. You got the cool ornate Bestech pivot there on the front, milled pocket clip on the back, and then a backlock, mid-mounted, but this is not quite like most backlocks out there. This is not the first backlock to do it, but it is amongst the only ones I know of, or it's amongst only a handful of ones I know. You're actually getting ball bearings in the pivot on this knife, ceramic ball bearings in this case. And the way they have this tuned is supremely flickable. We see this also with stuff like the Viper Turn. If you've seen us show that knife here, it's kind of a similar thing to that. But the quote-unquote detent on this knife is even more crisp and nice feeling. it's really cool. You've got a little bit of a stop along the travel if you don't keep the lock bar pushed down, so you can get it started and you have that stop for safety before you go to finish closing it. In fact, you can still close it one-handed. If you do that, then you can kind of reorient your grip like so, push the knife closed, kind of like you do with some of the double detent joints out there. Gets you a similar vibe. Now, I haven't tried to reverse flick it yet, but we ought to be able to. Yeah, it's a little tougher with thumb studs, but it can be done, as you can see. So that's pretty cool. The action's great. It's good to see a new spin on the lock back, even if they're not completely new, but it's still a pretty new spin on the lock back. I dig it. It's a really cool knife, really cool pattern, and cool to see Bestech trying new things, pushing the envelope forward. And it's not just with this too. They're also kind of the latest company to take a stab at, it's a knife show.
Nice pivot.
Golf clap for Thomas, that was good. Especially because some companies call this their pivot lock, but no. Bestech is taking their stab at a crossbar lock right here. With this knife right here, the Slasher. Interestingly, this is not the first Bestech crossbar lock out there. Technically, we saw that on the Giant Mouse Nazca earlier this year. Bestech made that knife for the Giant Mouse folks. Now they've got it on one of their own knives. And this one's a very affordable crossbar locking knife. It's amongst the most affordable crossbar locks you can get right now. This knife is called the Slasher, which is funny to me because this blade shape doesn't exactly scream slashing, but the price is about 63 bucks. Interestingly, between that price and the shape, this is actually giving me some pretty strong penguin vibes in a way. Saw that QSP earlier. But 63 bucks for this knife. You get D2 steel in this case, D2 tool steel, stonewashed finish, very respectable edge retention at this price point, and you get the crossbar lock. You may not get the S35 that the Penguin had, but the Penguin doesn't come with something like this crossbar lock either. And folks, let me tell you, their crossbar lock is great. We're seeing this a lot from the Chinese competition as they're bringing their stuff in. They're doing a really good job with this locking mechanism. It's a cool knife. Just over 3 inches long, modified sheep's foot shape. I say modified because instead of the completely straight cutting edge, we've got a hint of curvature going on. Otherwise, another strong utility blade right here. Micarta for the handles, a few colors. This is the blue, and it is contoured a little bit. You can kind of see that from the back, and it fills the hand, fills my hand anyway, which is slightly larger than average if you're trying to go by or get a reference point there. Really, really comfortable and hand-filling grip given its relatively small size. It's a very secure hold, and yet you can manipulate it quite easily too. And flicks open and closed in exactly the way you would want it to. Deep carry pocket clip, right side only. That might be my only criticism on this knife because everything else is completely ambidextrous. The lock and the thumb studs. Might have been nice to have a reversible pocket clip there too. But if you're right-handed or you carry the knife on the right side, definitely give that a look. I think it is a winner. All right, next up, we're back to another expensive Bestech. This is the Fairchild, and it is anything but childlike. I mean, this is a beast right here. Just about 3 inches, but no, just about 4 inches of S35 VN, milled titanium handles, frame lock, ball bearings in the pivot, 322 for this knife right here. A couple of different colors can be had. We've also got, actually I believe they are all titanium. I was about to say, I think we have a micarta version on the front, but we do not. They are all titanium. There's a couple, they range from 322 to about 348, depending on which one you get. This is a lot of knife. I mean, the handle itself, from the top of the frame lock to the back of the handle, even before this this kick up happens at the tail, I don't even have to get to that point, and I've got all 4 of my fingers. I almost said all 4 of my hands on it. I've done that before, and you folks have called me out, which fair enough. It's kind of funny. It's kind of funny though. But yeah, I've got all 4 of my my fingers on my one hand in that area. There's room to slide off the back if you want to. You're not going to chop with this knife, right? But you could get a little more reach towards what you're cutting, like so. And then they've got this big choil here at the front that you could choke up on there if you wish as well. finer control over that blade. And that's a cool blade. It's not super thin, but it is pretty tall. So combined with its nearly full flat grind, you're still getting some pretty decent edge geometry, or decent blade geometry behind the edge for just everyday slicing, while still maintaining a decent bit of strength thanks to the thickness of that spine right there. Nice thin edge, very sharp. As far as the action, well, let's see if it drops shut for those who like that sort of thing. Pretty well. Give it a little bit of a nudge, but it fell closed quite nicely. Milled pocket clip there on the back. That's pretty cool, actually. It maintains the shape of the handle there at the end, which is cool. One less thing jutting out. As far as action, the reverse flickability is great. You could, of course, thumb flick it or just slow roll the opening with your thumb, but that reverse flick it feels like this knife was really made to take advantage of that. So yeah, that's really cool. Very stylish, but some serious hardworking chops behind it as well. All right, next up, speaking of style with some hardworking chops, we've got a couple of new REVO knives to take a look at. And the first is the Rev 2 of the Berserk. Rev 2 REVO, I like what they did there, it's pretty cool. Basically, the difference between this and previous versions, or at least the primary or most recognizable difference, is we've got a flipper tab here rather than a thumb opening as on the previous version. Price on this knife is about $66.50. You've got a 9CR series stainless steel blade, which metallurgically, you're in the 440C ballpark right there, so pretty solid stuff. And you've got 3 3/8 of an inch thereabouts in length to work with. Modified tanto shape, shall we say right there? Yeah, don't even have to say modified, really. We've got compound grinds, both of them flat into the swedge back there. This one has a black stonewashed finish with green G10, but there are some different colorways available. Folded over pocket clip, not really deep carry, but it is reversible. Liner lock, ball bearings in the pivot, and some good manual action going on. This is not one of their assisted knives if you're looking for that. So very, very cool. It's got a good feel in the hand, quite honestly. It's not super ergonomic, but it fits real well. The controllability of being able to move it around, I think it's excellent. And all 4 of my hands fit on there quite well. All 4 of my fingers, okay, sorry. But yeah, good working knife. Nice tactical option, definitely has some of those vibes if that's your thing. If stylistically you like something that's a little more pared back, the new version of their Warden knife might appeal to you. You've got a tanto or a drop point profile available, about 3 1/4 inches on length here, 9CR again. And the handles themselves are G10. There's blue, black, orange, and a earth brown, I think. Might be called Coyote, but anyway, a brownish handle or tannish handle as well. It's got some matching matching standoffs in this case, and a folded over clip, again reversible, not quite deep carry. Liner locking, and this is an assisted opener, so you hit that flipper, you're gonna have nice repeatable action, and the actual action itself on this one is quite nice. Very snappy, as you can see. Yeah, works really well. As far as the grip, it's kind of a 3 1/2 finger grip for me. I'm able to catch the tail end of that handle quite nicely with my pinky. Again, that helps with manipulation, and there's still enough there for me at least to have a full gorilla grip on that knife when I really squeeze down on it. Pretty nice. I like the couple different blade shape options. Even as an EDC, if tactical's not your thing, there's certainly some nice applications for this tanto blade shape as well. Next up, some more Bokers and into the fixed blades, which I'm very happy about. This is a Yurko design. This is the Epic fixed blade. A presumptuous name, one might say, but I like it. $63 and change for this knife. It's D2 steel, nearly about 3.7 inches in fact. And when I say that, that is the kind of sharpened length of the blade right there. So if you're somewhere where blade length is measured from the tip to the leading edge of the handle, it's gonna be over that 4-inch mark for you. But D2 steel, hollow ground, trailing point. I really like what they did with the index finger guard right here. You can see they've kind of knocked the edges off on both sides of it to kind of taper it down a little bit, make it, I don't know, a little more comfortable. They haven't sharpened it up. It's almost crowned there on the front, almost. So that's really nice. It's got a cool feel there in the hand. Nice kind of deft grips. This is less of a kind of gorilla grippy brute force style of handle. It's about precision holds, more or less. Black G10, polished with the nickel silver, I believe it's nickel silver, might be aluminum actually, but with the silver pins. Classic look. I mean, that's just a fantastically classy look too. But it's very nice. This could be a really reasonable EDC. Could work as a gentleman's steak knife. Certainly some hunting vibes. It's got a little bit of that kind of sharp finger shape going on, if you know what I mean. The sheath itself is Kydex and is kept nice and slim. So if you wanted to carry that inside the waistband, you could. In fact, it comes with Boker's kind of folded under J-style clip system right there, as well as adjustability for your belt size built in, which is nice. And if you'd rather use some other kind of clipping device, a small tech lock will fit this sheath as well. Next up, we've got two kind of quote-unquote survival knives designed by Dave Wenger. This is the Pilot knife, and it's kind of a reimagining of the classic, Air Force pilot's survival knife. That stacked leather handle, carbon steel blade. Ontario still makes them, in fact. This is kind of that idiom, reinterpreted by Dave Wenger. He makes these under his own brand name, and now there is a licensed Boker version, which comes in about $90 right now. 5.5-inch blade, D2 steel. You've got a flat saber grind here. Comes up right to the underside of that fuller, which is on both sides. And the sawback, straight clip point. I mean, the blade shape is pretty identifiable as being of that style of knife right away. But the handle is very different. Obviously, this is not stacked leather. It's not a stick tang. This is a full tang bladed knife with G10 scales and triple flared tubes for the attachment points. Will allow you to do that survival knife stuff of like spear lashing, which may or may not be advisable in your given circumstances, but it is there nonetheless. And it's a little more usable for what I think of as like bushcrafty tasks or outdoor tasks that you might need this quote unquote survival knife to undertake, because there's not as much of a guard on this knife as on the stacked leather version. As such, it's much more manipulatable and much more easy to control in those fine cutting tasks, notches, whittling, that sort of thing. But you still do have enough, in my opinion at least, enough index finger protection to keep your hand from sliding forward onto that edge. Edge itself comes all the way back, almost all the way to that handle. It's a lot of little details that really add up to make this knife quite nice. Sheath is Kydex as well. It runs with a larger version of that J hook we looked at earlier, but this will also fit both large and small tech locks if you wish. Next up, we've got Dave Wenger's Micro Tracker pattern from Boker. And I'm like so enamored with this thing. It's maybe the pretty far removed from the original survival knife uses of the original tracker, which is of course a much larger knife. But daggone it if I don't want to actually like carry one of these as a daily user. About 70 bucks, 1095 carbon steel, micarta handles, flared rivets here again, or flared tubes for the hold or for the attachment. Solid feel in the hand, absolutely. And despite not being like a big one tool option style survival knife, this definitely has some uses as an outdoor knife. You got plenty of belly here out near the front. There's make a nice small hunter. The hollow ground section here at the back certainly is going to work well for your feather sticks, and even using the upward turn, or the, should I say, downward turn, where it comes down to the point where it joins that flat ground section at the front. That's a great little round section for getting in, making curls for feather sticks that way as well. I've seen that done very effectively with larger versions of this style of knife, to be said, but that's got it right there. Blade length is about 3 and 5. It's like 3.3 and a little bit. It's solid. I mean, it feels super strong. That full tang. It's not been skeletonized out too much. It may have been a little bit, but you can still feel that reassuring heft in the hand. It's just cool. What other reason do you need? I don't think you need any more reason. How about a cool sheath? We've got Kydex again, J hook again, and compatibility with both large and small tech locks again. And in the tradition of saving the biggest and baddest for the last position in the video, it's usually for no other reason in that it fits over here off to the edge better than if it was right in the middle. We've got the return of the Laredo Boeiw from Cold Steel. 3V, 10.5 inches, super thick. What's that, like 5/16 of an inch thick? Price on this, because primarily of that huge, long and thick chunk of 3V, about $485 right now. The handles, again, Cold Steel says micarta, but I'll be darned if that doesn't look like G10 to me. Traditional kind of coffin-shaped Boeiw handle. A little bit of contouring to the sides of those slabs, so it makes it a little less slabby. Feels really good. Cross guard stays out of the way pretty nicely. It's not too aggressive, but given the sort of like, combative history of the Boeiw knife, it's appropriate right here. Not quite enough room for my finger to reach in front of that guard to extract the knife from a target, but it's still impressive nonetheless. I mean, that full flat grind is really nicely done. The swedge itself is just this side of not being sharp. It comes down to a pretty definitive, what's the word I'm looking for?
Apex.
That'll work. I dig it. So if you wanted to go in and kind of just sharpen that just a little bit, you'd have a nice razor sharp edge on the back as well, if that's your thing. Really impressive knife. The balance is actually pretty good. Let's see. It's probably, yeah, it's a little bit blade heavy. If you're looking for something that's a little more neutral handling, not by too much. It's just in front of the ricasso there, as you can see. It still feels fairly nimble. I like that. Sheath itself is Securex. Clicks in nicely. You've got the dangler strap as well as the retention loop here. And of course with the slots and rivet style of, what's the word? Construction?
Sure.
Of this, it's gonna work with a lot of aftermarket attachments as well, including those tech locks, T-clips, all that sort of thing as well. So there we go. Biggest for last, as always. All right, folks, that's all we have to take a look at this week. Make sure to let we know what we thought of them Please let us know what you thought of them in the comments section below. And to get your hands on any of these knives, check out the links in the description to take you over to KnifeCenter.com. Don't forget about our Knife Rewards program as well, because you might as well earn some free money to spend on your next knives when you're putting your hard-earned money down on one of these knives today. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center. That's Thomas behind the camera. We're signing off. See you next time.